Hello, good evening, good morning, and good afternoon to you all. This is To Be Continued with episode 2 of To Be Continued Unleash. This episode is about the culture war, and it is titled, Is the Culture War Dead? I want to talk about this due to the fact that Trump won, and that we're now in the second Trump term, and kind of looking back at, the overall feels and vibes, I guess you could say that in quotes, to the culture war. Now, in my memory, if it serves correct, I didn't gain that much knowledge of the culture war until like 2018. So from like 2018 and on, I know a lot more of the culture war than 2018, 2017 and below. And it's kind of interesting to see how changed it is. Even 24 compared to even 2019. There's different avenues, different battles, and even different issues we are currently fighting as a culture. And I believe we're kind of almost coming towards the end, or at least to a position where we can essentially declare victory, or even a small rest. So my first experience with the whole culture war was during the aftermath of the release of episode 8, The Last Jedi by Disney slash Lucasfilm. Now, I'm not going to get into topics about my feelings about the Star Wars franchise, but my opinion on the movie has fluctuated. At first, I was like, okay, it's good. Then I went full, this is, SJW nonsense, woke, blah, 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 blah. Now it's kind of like, it's alright, mediocre, but I was first kind of introduced in the whole world of the culture war, by watching the various YouTubers like Geeks and Gamers and Star Wars Theory. But then it kind of, as I saw, more instances, examples, I kind of, started to do some double taking, especially around the 2020 election with the riots going on, the COVID 19 pandemic. That was a very tricky time. And with the riots going on, I saw many of my classmates posting the whole black square thing on Instagram. That was totally ridiculous. I don't know why or who started it, but it's ridiculous. But I wasn't really, had that many, strong opinions on that. But, the 2020 election, after, in December and January, I did go through a liberal phase, but then I slowly climbed out of it. And then I noticed more discussion around the Biden years of the LGBTQ issues, the whole classroom debacles, the quote unquote book banning, and it was an interesting time to be alive because you got all this stuff happening, you see all these crap that's flying around, and you wonder what's going on, what's true. So, in regards to like entertainment, pop culture, I don't exactly know if that's ever going to change or if it's going to change in the long run. Because I don't exactly see Hollywood, suddenly changing their minds and becoming unwoke. I do see more in the future, sales kind of declining a little bit, maybe a general disinterest in movies from general audiences because they're going to be like, this is all just the same boring slop. As you see with Disney's live action remakes. And that could cause a change in Hollywood, but it could be a very disinterest change. And I think that's not really a goal we should aspire. If we need change, it should be genuine, not one made out of pure money making or profit seeking motives. And this is something that I want to warn other people and write about. It's going to see some people, you know, flip, quote unquote. I wouldn't necessarily, take their change of hearts, with that much skepticism, but with healthy skepticism because it's going to be natural that there's going to be people seeking ways to make more profit. And if they see one group, that becomes more popular, they're going to want to market, their products to them instead of the other side. So, it's just the whole thing about the streaming versus theater that has kind of got me a little bit interested because I don't know exactly the futures of those two. Because we got Netflix, doing password sharing crackdown. This, we seeing prices, being rised up, skyrocketing, and there's very few options that are becoming available now. Honestly, I probably will quit Disney Plus after the Andor season 2 comes out because what's even left that's good? I'd rather buy, movies and TV shows on DVD now because you can find stuff that's older and a lot more enjoyable. You can find the classics. But I don't see how Hollywood could become, quote, unmilkified, quote, but we'll have to see. Now, I think another important aspect of the culture war was the 2022 midterms. During the summer of that year, the Dobbs decision came around, which overturned Roe, and that caused somewhat of a problem, but as we saw in 24, not really as big as a problem as the Democrats were thinking it could. So, with the overturning of Roe, we saw the abortion issue come back to the states. We saw a lot of these referendums, being issued out, some passing and some failing. And I feel like also the 22 midterms were kind of a sign of almost what to come. Because, yeah, we did see a somewhat of a red trickle and not a red rave. I think it was enough to give indication of there was enough dissatisfaction with the status quo. And I believe, with the 24 election in the starting to become the rearview mirror, we're seeing the end of the line. We'll see the left as, become way more demoralized than ever. We got some approval polls showing Trump above 50%, which is, never before happened. And it's quite stark to think that, 2016, 2020, Trump was a decisive figure, or divisive, I mean. You know, we never really saw his approval rating, above 50. And obviously, with the 2020 election, he did win re-election then. I think it took 4 more years of Biden and the left's growing insanity to make people realize, hey, we don't like this. Actually, and we saw what's happened during the school board meetings. Because listen, United States, we don't necessarily ban books. You can still buy these books that are being called quote unquote banned books on Amazon or any other book selling retailers. Problem is when you got books that show inappropriate images and you're showing them to kids, that's the issue. Because you don't show that type of stuff to kids who don't fully understand what they're seeing or, are innocent. We as a culture have always, valued the time of, keeping, children as children, keeping them away from the harsh realities of adulthood. But yet we are having these leftist LGBTQ groups pushing all these inappropriate books down their throats. Because guess what? They can't, reproduce, they can't multiply. And to be honest, they're not, pro kid, they're not pro family. They're anti natalist. So the only option is to brainwash. Now, this comes to a reaction that conservatives have that they pull out and go to the hills. I don't think that's a good idea. I think we need to fight. We need to run for school boards and take control of the public schools because you can't just hide forever. You can't. You have to fight this head on, head first. And I believe this is going to be a great opportunity to start it. We just experienced a monumental victory, a victory that probably is once in a generation. And if we don't seize upon it, then history will judge us badly. Now, I want to get into some ways we can continue to fight this because, the fight's not over and we got to hit them another week because we're seeing the left kind of disintegrating. As you can see over the past 3 days, they're still blabbering about, Elon's artistic splat, doing that hand gesture that they claim was a blankety salute, but he was throwing, his heart out and, well, yeah, Steve probably could have done a different motion. Still, they're still ultra focused on that. Meanwhile, we got mass deportation starting up, so they're busy, focusing on their own manufactured outrage over other stuff. So I think that's where we can start. Hit them when they're not noticing. Go on the offensive. Because once they realize it, they're going to try everything to hit back. But if you hit them while they're distracted, well, you can probably do a lot of things. Now, I kind of want to circle back on the issue of abortion because, to me, I think the way this fight is happening is kind of being mismanaged. Got all these big pro-life organizations like Live Action or Live Action, I forgot, and they're kind of grifting off the whole movement. If you remember, back in August, the founder, Lila Rose, was encouraging pro-life people not to vote for Trump because wouldn't sign a national abortion ban. I think this kind of woke me up to the realization that a lot of these big quote pro-life quote organizations They don't really care about the fight, they care about the money. And I think the whole Dobbs decision kind of represents their end of the money making grift. They only cared about making money and not changing minds. I'm sorry. No one's going to change their mind based off of a cheaply done CGI video of how the baby's formed. You know how they're going to change their mind? Through discussion, through learning about, hey, here's why. And also pursuing programs to essentially fund motherhood. Like if you make giving birth cheaper than having an abortion, then that would do way more damage than just outright banning it. But the problem is, it seems like a lot of these grifters, they just have one thing on the mind: ban, 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 ban. And it's annoying and frustrating, especially when you see all these amendments and petitions passing, and you don't see any of them acting on it. Like, where was pro-life Inc. In all these states that passed, like Montana, Kansas, Ohio, Missouri? Where were they? Oh, in Kentucky too. Solid red states, but yet the abortion minutes passed. Where were they? Literally, where were they? So, and I think restructuring organizations and regrouping is another big thing in the culture war, because as long as these organizations are run by imbeciles, are still in power, or they're still running the grift, then we're going to fail. We eventually have to realize that we may have to play the left's game. We may have to slowly, inch our way forward. It's kind of like, I think, a frog in a fire. You slowly turn the heat up. You don't go boom. Slowly turn the heat up. And in other regards, do I think that, you know, changing the hearts and minds of other generations could work? Yes. And maybe they can spend some resources of retaking back institutions, preventing the spread of, wokeness everywhere. These could be feasible outcomes. But yet, I don't see an organic movement to do that. And I believe that is a way we can fight the battle. Before I continue, if you like this, please comment, like, and subscribe. If you want, hit that notification bell. It's optional, but it will really help. Thank you. Before I get to the end segment, I want to hear you guys' opinions about the intro to this video, because I tried something different. I decided to make a different intro than using the templates that Chip Clamp suggests. There was an issue on the last video I recorded where it wouldn't export. So I'm hoping that this new style works or is pleasing. If not, let me know. If there are any suggestions on any free audio programs that are more decent than Clipchamp, also let me know. And I do apologize, there was some background noise. But anyway, on to the end segment. This final segment, I kind of want to talk about the culture and religion, because I do believe these two kind of intersect. Now in America, we're kind of lucky that we don't have a state-controlled church as some European countries does, because as I always say, the whole separation of church and state, it's not meant to protect the state from religion, but it's to protect religion from the state. But we're kind of seeing the effects of some left-wing doctrines, seeping into some of the more the mainline Protestant churches than anything else. You see these, United Methodist churches, Lutheran churches, and Episcopalian churches flying pride flags, BLM thingy, and you even saw, this play out last Tuesday, where we had a quote-unquote bishopess trying to lecture the president about being kind towards, illegal immigrants, because who can pick up fields? But this is something that I kind of noticed, because the culture is affecting religion as we know it. And as a Christian myself, we need to, retake back what, the Bible believes, and because some of these, progressive ideals, they go against what the Bible preaches. Because guess what? It's not all, kumbaya in the New Testament. You know, God is a loving God, but He's also you know, He's a righteous God, and you cannot be righteous without having some type of judgment. Now, there's kind of been discourse about whether, are young people going towards the church more or are they going away from the church? And I do believe this is kind of seen, right down the middle between the gender line. There's been reports of, more younger men going towards more traditional forms of Christianity, while younger women are leaving. And I think this is going to kind of be more of an issue as time goes on because, unfortunately, as our culture stands, there's kind of a divide, and unless there's a way to mend the divide or reach out, we're going to see, just splitting of the rock per se. And I want to briefly touch on, why Christians should even be involved in the culture wars, because let's face it, it's kind of a matter of life or death. We got many people being misled by the virtues of the DEI, progressivism, falling into the trap of, love is love, and it's a path that will lead to utter darkness. Now, I'm not saying that conservatism is exactly perfect. There's flaws in every single type of system, but conservatism has way more in common with biblical values than liberal ideals. Now, to answer the question, is the culture war dead? In America, I think it's dying. But to all European conservatives out there, I feel sorry because majority of European countries, I don't know how long they are going to last, especially if you get censored on the internet for posting a meme. I hate it when some of these European types will make fun of Americans having school shootings, but you can't post a meme in Europe without getting arrested. I'm sorry. There's something else. Just something about the totality of freedom of speech that we are lucky to have as Americans, and I really wish that I can use that power to influence Europe to have more freedom of speech. But in America, I believe the culture war is on its way to end, and if we don't keep it up, we'll still continue on, and it needs to end because otherwise there will not really be victory, and more or less we could be defeated way more easier. So to wrap this whole thing up, the culture war needs to be spread to the normies, people outside of YouTube or Twitter. At least explain it in a way that you don't have to say it's the culture war, blah blah blah. You can say there's forces outside that wish us harm or wish us bad, and they want to subvert our way of life. And that's it. Explain to the normies, and that's how you can get them more involved in the culture war. And I believe the 24 election is a truly turning point, but we cannot give up. We're starting to see that they're trying to reband DEI into other names, other forms. We cannot let them get away with that. We have to keep pushing the pedal to the metal. This is to be continued. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, wherever you all guys are at. Signing off in 1, 2, 3.